Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations on making it this far. So your proposal has already impressed. Now it's time to see if you can deliver with the presentation. My name is George, and today I'll be offering you a few tips and tricks on hopefully how to perfect your presentation. So the first thing to consider is that when you're rehearsing, remember that your presentation should have a general structure. Obviously, you can deviate a little bit, you can talk a little bit about more at one thing, you can change the order, but the general idea should be something like this. You start with your background, so your big ideas, your key terms, the kind of things that your audience needs to know before advancing in the rest of your proposal. Next, you want to introduce your problem, the area you focused on, right? So we decided to focus on this area because it really bothered us. We really wanted to find a solution for it. From there, you transition into your research idea. So what is your solution? Why is it relevant? Why is it significant? Then you move on to the methodology. So you explain how your experimental setup works, the different variables you're looking at, the flow chart, and you're connecting all the ideas together. And then you want to summarize it all in a conclusion. So where does it go from here? If the research works, what are the next steps? If it doesn't work, where did it go wrong? How can you improve it? In terms of the actual presentation itself, it's very important not to read your poster. All right, great. You can start whenever you're ready. Yeah, so welcome to my presentation. Today I'm going to be talking about bacteria and how bacteria... Excuse me, I can't hear you right now. I can't really... Yeah, like I'm presenting. This is my presentation, yeah. So if you see, like right here, we're talking about bacteria today. If the judges wanted to read your poster, they would read your poster and you wouldn't have to be there. You want to present the poster, you want to know the poster, you want to own the poster. It's your presentation. Another thing you don't want to do is you don't want to memorize your written proposal word for word and then just bring it back up as your presentation. I know it's very tempting. You spent a lot of time on this research proposal, you spent a lot of time researching it, perfecting it, editing it, but at the same time, if you're just going to bring it back word for word, it never really goes to plan. It sounds scripted, it doesn't sound genuine, and then it gets super awkward when you can't exactly remember the word you're trying to say. It's best when you can capture your presentation in terms of both. It's best when you can capture your It's really So that's not to say that you can't touch your written proposal at all as a basis for your presentation, right? Like this is actually very encouraged. Given all the ideas in your research proposal, you should start to summarize it. Try to see if you can remember the key ideas in terms of, okay, so here's my research idea. It's significant for two very big reasons. Reason number one, give the reason. Reason number two, give the reason. If you can summarize it, condense it into the main points, and then take it from there and try to remember what those main points are without memorizing word for word. This way, the presentation starts to flow a lot more conversationally, it feels a lot more natural, and then you don't run into the roadblocks where you can't remember a word exactly, and then your entire presentation gets thrown off. In terms of the actual practice, you can either present for an audience, so ask your friends, ask your parents, do it in front of the mirror. It's really important to pay attention to those little filler words, those ahs, those ums, because it really takes away from the presentation as a whole. You know, I didn't really understand your research idea. Do you mind explaining that a little bit more? Honestly, all it takes sometimes is just to slow everything down a little bit. You have a little more time to think, you make your points, you make the emphasis on key ideas. If you need to pause, the pauses don't sound as elongated. And from there, your presentation just starts to mesh a little bit more, it flows a little more smoothly. Also be sure to pay attention to your rhythm, your pitch, your intonation. All these little cues can really come together to make or break your presentation. It really distinguishes from that robotic, single, monotone voice versus something that's very involved, very intriguing. The next thing you want to be sure that you do is be ready for questions. A very useful thing to do is just always start with, "That's a great question." The question could be ridiculous. It doesn't matter what the question is, okay? The judges are always very smart people, all right? Say, "That's a great question," and then continue with your answer. It gives you maybe 2-3 more seconds to think about your answer, gather your thoughts before you actually articulate it. Sometimes that can be the difference between a fantastic answer and something that you completely made up. That's another thing too. Don't ever make up an answer. A lot of the judges know the material very well. They're the experts in the field. So if you start pulling out random facts about things that you made up on the spot, they're gonna catch that. What's the underlying science behind it though? You know, that's a great question. From my research, I found out that the bacterial matrix of the Erlenmeyer flask has an endothelial symbiosis with a pumpkin spice latte.
What?
Don't do that. Of course, the best case scenario is that you've already brainstormed all the possible questions that the judges could ask you. You've done the research, you've supported it with evidence, and you know what you're going to talk about and you're ready for the questions. Now, obviously, no one's given the questions in advance, so if you do come across an answer that you're not totally comfortable giving or you don't really understand the whole answer in itself, sometimes an inferred answer based on the research that you've done is also quite good as well. The last resort is just to be honest and say that you don't know. Of course, don't end your answer there. It's best to follow up with, hey, I don't know the answer right now, but we could conduct maybe this separate research study. So that way you're not just leaving them with a very, very empty answer. You're giving them some sort of follow-up research-based answer. So apart from using your voice as a tool, remember that you have your body language, your eye contact, all of these other things that can really add up to perfect your presentation. Remember to smile, remember to make eye contact, but obviously there's a little bit too much. And there's also a little too little. Don't do either of those. Find a nice balance and work with it. Body language is also a big one. Remember, you do have arms, you have hands, right? Refer to things on your poster, emphasize big ideas. It's really, really effective when you can capture your whole presentation verbally and non-verbally. So on the day of, remember, if you're feeling a little bit nervous, if you're feeling a little bit jittery, that's totally normal. Take a few deep breaths, take a drink of water, do what you need to do to really relax a little bit. And then once you actually get into the presentations, you'll find that you start to calm down a bit, the conversation comes a little more easily, and you will do fine. Trust. From there, you introduce your words, English. All right. Filler words, pay attention, listen to get feedback. I like that. That's good.
You're doing fantastic.
Thank you. Professionalism of the... All of these... Yeah. Okay. Slow down. Yeah. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you find some help in it. And best of luck in the final round of presentations. I'll see you in a couple weeks.